What does it take to unite Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Two men who rarely agree on anything, one a tech billionaire, the other a political firebrand, now sounding the same alarm. Our food system is broken and the American dinner table is under silent attack. In just the first half of 2025, the FDA has issued over 90 food recalls, not for spoiled milk or wilted lettuce, but for formaldehyde in fish, lead in applesauce, and rocks inside frozen meals. These aren't accidents. They're systemic failures buried in everyday products that land on the plates of older Americans, working families, and those trying to survive on fixed incomes. So if voices as far apart as Musk and RFK Jr. are both pointing to the same danger, maybe it's time to stop thinking this is just bad luck and start asking who's profiting from our poisoning. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And tonight, we revealed the 7 worst grocery items in America, exposed by whistleblowers, backed by 2025 FDA and USDA records, and hidden in plain sight at stores you visit every week. Number 1. Applesauce. Imagine handing a ticking time bomb to a toddler and calling it a snack. That's essentially what happened earlier this year, and the scariest part? It came in a smiling pouch labeled Great Value, the kind of thing you'd toss in your cart without blinking, maybe while trying to juggle coupons, stretch a tight grocery budget, or keep the grandkids from getting cranky in the cereal aisle. It looked innocent enough. Applesauce, cinnamon, no mess. Just squeeze and go. But this wasn't apples and cinnamon. This was a powder keg with a plastic cap. On April 11th, 2025, the FDA dropped a bombshell, Great Value. Cinnamon applesauce pouches were being urgently recalled after tests revealed dangerously high levels of lead. Not trace amounts, not slightly elevated. We're talking blood lead levels in small children that were 5 times higher than what the CDC considers dangerous. Lead, the same toxic metal banned from paint and gasoline decades ago, was now quietly laced into a product meant for tiny hands and tiny mouths. So where did the poison come from? Cheap cinnamon, imported from Ecuador, traced back to a sketchy supplier with a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt, and no FDA inspections on record. How did it even get through customs? That's the billion-dollar question. Even worse, internal documents later leaked by Reuters showed Walmart distribution centers had been alerted as early as February by state health departments. And yet, those pouches kept sitting on shelves, like a landmine waiting to go off in your pantry. It's like playing Russian roulette at snack time. But here's the cruel irony. Great Value has long been a go-to for folks trying to stretch their dollars without sacrificing quality. It sold itself as the good enough brand for the hardworking American. Turns out it was good enough to poison kids. And what did Walmart do after the recall? A quiet press release. No heartfelt apology. No overhaul of supplier policies. Just corporate silence thick enough to choke on. As if the lead wasn't in their product, but in someone else's problem folder. If this is how the system works in 2025, where tainted cinnamon slips past borders, watchdogs nap on the job, and giant retailers shrug it off, then what chance does the average shopper have? Especially those raising grandkids, watching every dollar and trusting the label in front of them. So here's what you can do. Don't just read labels, dissect them. If it says distributed by instead of grown and packed by, consider it a red flag. Brands like North Coast Organic use US grown apples in third-party lab tests. Sure, it might cost a little more, but so does irreversible brain damage. Or go old school, buy fresh apples, toss them in a slow cooker with a pinch of cinnamon, and make your own. It's not just food, it's a quiet rebellion. Because let's face it, if a mega chain like Walmart can sell lead to kids and still sleep at night, maybe the real danger isn't what's in our food. Maybe it's who we're trusting to feed us. Number 2, toxic baby foods. They call it baby food, but they might as well call it brain fog in a jar. You stroll into the baby aisle, heart set on picking something safe, maybe even nourishing. Something your grandkids can eat without you staring at the label like you're defusing a bomb. Gerber, beech nut, Earth's Best, Plum Organics. They sound like lullabies turned into brands. Pastel packaging, soft fonts, smiling cartoon fruits. It all whispers, trust us. But behind those gentle colors and warm slogans lies a truth so bitter, it'll leave a lump in your throat. Those jars and pouches have been poisoning babies under our noses. In December of 2024, a congressional report updated by the U.S. House Oversight Subcommittee dropped a truth bomb that rattled every caregiver paying attention. Investigators confirmed what some feared and others could barely imagine. Several major baby food brands knowingly allowed their products to contain staggering levels of toxic metals like arsenic, lead, mercury, and cadmium. These aren't trace amounts you can chalk up to soil residue. Some samples clocked in at over 90 times the FDA's safe limits. 90, not 9, not 19, 90. Now pause and let that sink in. That means one spoonful of this first food could deliver nearly 100 days worth of exposure in a single bite. And you know what's worse? These companies knew. Internal documents revealed that brands like Gerber and Beechnut had access to their own testing results. Data clearly showing dangerously high levels, but chose to keep it quiet. In one case, Beechnut kept using arsenic-laced rice flour, even after being warned. Meanwhile, they were proudly slapping "ideal for first foods" on the label. First foods? More like first exposure to neurotoxins. Talk about a dirty welcome to the world. By the start of 2025, more than a dozen lawsuits were already in motion, filed by parents whose children developed speech delays, behavioral disorders, or signs of autism. All conditions increasingly tied to early exposure to heavy metals. And the storm is far from over. The National Children's Health Project estimates that over 26,000 families could be eligible for compensation based on medical records and blood tests. This is more than just a headline. It's a gut punch, especially for grandparents raising the next generation on shoestring budgets. Between skyrocketing grocery prices and an underfunded healthcare system, the last thing anyone needs is to be betrayed by baby food. But the poison wasn't just in the jars, it was also on the shelves of Walmart, Dollar General, Family Dollar. Stores that aren't just common in small towns, they're the only option, and these companies knew where their products would end up. They just didn't care. So what can you do? If time allows, blend your own baby food using peeled organic produce. It may sound like a hassle, but once you get into a rhythm, it's cheaper than you'd think, and you know exactly what's going in. If you go store-bought, look for brands like Yumi or Once Upon a Farm, who don't just talk the talk. They post their lab tests online for everyone to see. You can also avoid rice-based cereals, which tend to soak up arsenic from the ground like a sponge. Try barley or oatmeal instead. Your grandkid's brain will thank you. And here's a tip you can use every time you shop. Look for third-party lab testing. If it's not on the label, or the company dodges your question when you ask for results, walk away. Also steer clear of vague phrases like natural flavors, brown rice syrup, or fruit juice concentrate. Those words often hide cheap shortcuts that lead to a metal-filled mess. But the real heartbreak here isn't just in the chemicals, it's in the betrayal. These companies painted themselves as guardians of the next generation. Turns out they were just guardians of their bottom line. So let's ask the question nobody wants to answer. When the poorest babies in America are the most exposed, is that a failure of oversight? Or the plan all along? Number 3, ramen. It's supposed to be the poor man's comfort food. A steamy bowl of ramen that hugs the ribs and doesn't punch the wallet. Just a packet, some hot water, and boom, dinner's done. For older folks living on fixed incomes and anyone who's ever counted coins before payday, instant noodles have long been more than just a meal. They're a warm fallback, a kind of edible security blanket that's always there when times get rough. But in June of 2025, that nostalgic cup of soup turned into a chemical landmine. A consumer alert from the European Food Safety Authority, backed by South Korea's own food safety agency, sounded the alarm on June 10th. Multiple varieties of samyang and paldo noodles had been tainted with ethylene oxide, a toxic gas used to sterilize hospital equipment. You read that right. The same substance that disinfects scalpels and syringes somehow found its way into seasoning packets meant for human consumption, and not in tiny amounts. In some samples, levels were over 50 times the legal limit set by the European Union. It's like sprinkling Lysol on your dinner and calling it spice. The contaminated noodles had already made their way into the US, slipped onto the shelves of local Asian grocery stores, dollar outlets, and big-name online retailers like Amazon. And while Europe yanked the products immediately, launching a full-blown investigation, America hit snooze. By early July, the FDA still hadn't issued a national recall. Meanwhile, South Korea banned over 21 products. including Samyang's Buldak Hot Chicken, the fire-breathing favorite of YouTube challenges, and Paldo's explosive Volcano line. What did the noodle makers say? That the ethylene oxide was just a trace residual from spice processing. But if that's acceptable, what else is sneaking past our plates under the label of trace? Consumer watchdogs weren't buying the excuse, and neither should you. Because when it comes to carcinogens, a little is still too much, especially when that bowl is going into bodies already fighting diabetes, high blood pressure, or recovering from surgery. And here's the bitter irony: the very folks most drawn to cheap, filling ramen, the elderly, the poor, the disabled, are the ones paying the steepest price. When fresh food is scarce and every penny matters, these instant meals are often the only thing between hunger and sleep. But now, that bowl could come laced with a chemical so toxic it's banned from food production across Europe. So what can you do without breaking the bank? Domestic brands like Mike's Mighty Good and Lotus Foods are a safer bet. Pourtant, they cost more up front but skip the nasty additives and use real ingredients. Buying in bulk online can shave the cost, and the sodium content is usually half what you'd find in imported fire noodles. Or try a homemade hack. Boil up soba noodles, toss in a frozen veggie mix, a soft-boiled egg, and pour in some low-sodium broth. It's quicker than you think and miles safer than playing roulette with gas-treated soup. Before you buy, always check the origin. Product of Korea with flashy packaging? Look up the batch code. Sites like foodsafetynews.com and the FDA Recall database now track tainted imports by barcode and flavor. It's a small habit that could save your health. Because this isn't just about spicy noodles anymore. It's about how much value the system places on your life. If the European Union says it's poison, why is it still on our shelves? Why do wealthier zip codes get whole foods and ingredient transparency, while working-class neighborhoods get chemical broth and shiny wrappers? How long are we expected to stomach this? And who decided that our dinner should come with a disclaimer? Number 4. Tilapia. It's sold as the clean-eating champ of the seafood aisle. No bones, no skin, barely a smell. Just flaky white fish, vacuum-sealed and frozen, ready to be tossed into the skillet for a healthy dinner. For folks juggling blood pressure, cholesterol, and grocery bills all at once, tilapia seems like a miracle. Lean, cheap, and easy. You'll find it stacked in the freezer bins at Walmart, Kroger, Costco, even Dollar Tree. But peel back the label, and the truth might just make you drop your fork. A shocking portion of that tilapia has been swimming in water filthier than a gas station mop bucket and seasoned with chemicals used to preserve corpses. According to the FDA's import alert number 16-128, updated in March of 2025, dozens of shipments of Chinese farmed tilapia were detained for containing formalin, a solution made from formaldehyde, the same stuff used in embalming fluid, as well as nitrofuran antibiotics and widespread bacterial contamination. Formalin is outright banned in U.S. food because of its known cancer risk, but it's been used by exporters to give fish a fresher appearance and extend its shelf life during ocean transport. That's right. The fillets you've been frying might have been chemically freshened up the same way a funeral director preserves a body. Digging deeper, reports from food safety investigators and U.S. Customs in early 2025 exposed the truth about the origin of these fish. Many of the farms in China's Guangdong and Fujian provinces raise tilapia in overcrowded concrete ponds filled with runoff, and not the kind you want near your dinner. We're talking about pig waste, pharmaceutical sludge, and stagnant water that would make a sewer look clean. To prevent mass fish deaths in such toxic soup, farmers lace the ponds with illegal antibiotics and antifungal drugs. Not approved for people, not even approved for pets. But somehow those fillets still find their way into freezer bags marked all natural and sustainably sourced. And who's buying them? Folks trying to eat better on a tight budget. According to a January 2025 report from the Seafood Transparency Alliance, nearly 62% of frozen tilapia sold under private label store brands, including those at Walmart and Kroger, came from Chinese mega farms now under international scrutiny. And yet you'd never know it from the front label. Unless you flip the package and squint at the fine print, the fish might as well be from your neighbor's pond. And this is where it really stings. Lower-income households, retirees, and families in food deserts often don't have the luxury of choice. Tilapia's cheap price tag makes it a regular guest on the dinner table. But when the fish you bought for its health benefits is dosed up like it's headed for the morgue, something's gone terribly wrong. So here's your plan of action. First, check that country of origin label. Don't assume anything. If it says product of China, especially for tilapia, walk away. Instead, try tilapia farmed in the US, Mexico, or Ecuador, where stricter farming laws apply. Brands like Regal Springs and Blue River don't just talk the talk. They trace every fillet and test for chemical residues. Yes, it'll cost a few bucks more, but so does a doctor's visit when your liver waves the white flag. Better yet, skip the tilapia altogether. US caught pollock, mackerel, and sardines are not only safer, but higher in omega-3s and often sold canned at a discount. Wild Planet's canned salmon is a personal favorite, budget-friendly, protein-packed, and not raised in a concrete pond next to a pigsty. Because this isn't just a story about dirty fish, it's a story about a system that packages danger in pretty plastic and sells it as virtue. The fillets look clean, the slogans sound honest, but the facts? They reek. And when the cheaper the food, the higher the risk. We've got to ask, whose health matters in this country? Number 5, Costco Chicken. It's the golden prize at the end of every warehouse run. That warm, glistening $4.99 rotisserie chicken from Costco. Shoppers will wheel carts the size of pickup trucks just to make sure one of those birds makes it home. For older folks trying to stretch Social Security checks, or busy families juggling 2 jobs and 1 paycheck, it's been a blessing in a clamshell container. No prep, no cleanup, just dinner, hot and ready. But what if we told you that low price comes with a cost you don't see on the sticker? A cost measured in infection, chemicals, and unchecked cruelty. In March of 2025, a whistleblower from inside Lincoln Premium Poultry, Costco's very own chicken plant in Fremont, Nebraska, pulled back the curtain on what really goes into that famous bird. This wasn't some fringe complaint about tough meat. This was blood-chilling testimony backed by USDA inspection records. Chickens showing up with infected wounds, bloated organs, twisted legs, and many still alive, flapping and suffering after botched slaughter attempts. A worker told ProPublica that some birds bled internally until they stopped moving, not because they were dead, but because no one had time to notice. And these weren't rare cases. Leaked audits from April revealed that over 18% of the birds processed in 1 week were flagged for disease or tissue abnormalities, and still ended up in the rotisserie lineup. But the nightmare didn't stop at the kill. Floor Costco's barns, according to USDA citations, were soaked in ammonia from poorly ventilated waste buildup, the kind of stench that sticks to your clothes and burns your throat. And that ammonia didn't just stay in the air. In several batches tested internally, residues from ammonia and industrial disinfectants were found to exceed federal safety limits by up to 40%, meaning that golden skin, it may be more chemical glaze than natural roast. So why does this keep happening? Because that $4.99 chicken is Costco's cash cow, or rather cash bird. They sell over 100 million of them every year. It's more than a menu item. It's a branding tool, a loyalty anchor. And because Costco owns the entire production process, from hatching to shrink wrapping, they bypass much of the outside oversight that might have caught this sooner. And while there's no skull and crossbones sticker on the package, the risk is real, especially for older shoppers with weakened immune systems or heart conditions. Each 3-ounce serving comes packed with up to 460 milligrams of sodium, not counting possible chemical residues that build up over time. It's a health gamble disguised as a budget meal. So what's the better move? If you want that rotisserie convenience, check local chains like Sprouts or Natural Grocers, where the chickens are often hormone-free, pasture-raised, and processed in smaller facilities. Or get thrifty with a slow cooker. Buy a whole organic bird on sale, roast it on Sunday, and stretch it over several meals. You get more control, less chemical, and sometimes even a lower per meal cost. Before tossing another Costco chicken in your cart, look under the tray for processing codes. If it says Lincoln Premium Poultry, now you know the backstory. And if the package doesn't say anything, that silence might be the loudest warning of all, because Costco earned our trust by promising quality and savings. But now we have to ask, is this really about feeding people or just feeding profit margins? And how many corners can be cut before your health gets carved up with the rest of the bird? Number 6, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's always felt different, a little quirkier, a little friendlier. The Hawaiian shirts, hand-drawn signs, and catchy product names made it feel more like a neighborhood corner store than a big-time national chain. For older Americans, especially those tired of navigating warehouse-sized supermarkets, it was a breath of fresh air. The store was small, the prices were manageable, and the ready-made meals gave you the feeling of eating gourmet without cooking like a chef. But in July of 2025, that feel-good charm got shattered, not by rumors or lawsuits, but by sharp, hard chunks hiding in the food. Between July 10th and July 22, Trader Joe's issued a wave of recalls, over 10 different food items yanked from shelves because customers found foreign objects like metal shards, plastic pieces, and even rocks in everything from cookies to frozen lasagna. This wasn't a simple case of poor packaging. The FDA classified it as a Class 1 recall, the most serious kind, meaning the food had a real chance of causing serious health problems or death. Yes, death. From a cookie. Among the recalled products were Trader Joe's almond windmill cookies, dark chocolate chunk almond cookies, and vegan salad wraps. 5 people reported dental injuries within the first 3 days, including a woman in Ohio who cracked a molar on what she called a jagged chunk of plastic buried in the dough. In Arizona, a child nearly choked on a rock in a frozen bean dish. Let that sink in. Rocks and plastic in pre-packed food, sold under a brand known for smiling staff and cheerful slogans. Trader Joe's pointed the blame at third-party manufacturers, but internal documents obtained by CNN through the Freedom of Information Act tell another story. The company had already received at least 14 complaints about these issues as early as May, and sat on them. No recall, no public alert. Not until the news media caught wind of it and forced their hand. Worse still, some stores restocked the very same contaminated items after the recall began, meaning shoppers in places like California, Texas, and New York were unknowingly taking home dangerous products days after they were supposed to be pulled. This wasn't just a slip-up. It was a warning sign about how Trader Joe's operates behind the scenes. Unlike other grocery stores, they don't share who makes their products. That almond cookie with the folksy name? You'll never know what factory it came from or what safety measures were used. And when things go wrong, the brand hides behind colorful packaging instead of stepping up with answers. So how can you protect yourself? First, switch to stores and brands that are open about their sourcing. Chains like Sprouts, Fresh Thyme, or Natural Grocers often work with smaller suppliers and list ingredients and safety certifications clearly. For snacks, go with brands like Simple Mills, Bobo's, or Made Good, companies that post third-party safety test results online. And here's a smart budget tip. Bake a batch of cookies or prep a few meals on Sunday, freeze them in containers, and skip the guessing game with plastic-wrapped promises. Because here's the truth. When a brand sells itself as neighborly, we expect more than funny signs and catchy labels. We expect our food not to break our teeth or send our kids to the emergency room. If Trader Joe's can't keep metal and rocks out of a cookie, what else is slipping through the cracks? Why are we treating injuries at the dinner table like they're just part of the deal? Why are corporations allowed to smile through recalls while the rest of us pay the medical bills? If you've had a bad bite, or found a better option, leave a comment below. Because a shopping trip shouldn't end with a trip to the dentist. Number 7. Dollar Tree. For many Americans scraping by, Dollar Tree and Family Dollar are more than bargain stores. They're all that's left. When the grocery store down the road shuts its doors and your next Social Security deposit is still days away, these chains become the only option. But in early 2025, that trust was shattered. In March, the FDA conducted an emergency inspection at a Family Dollar warehouse in Arkansas, serving over 400 stores across 6 states. What they found was horrifying. Rats scurrying over food pallets, chewed through cereal boxes, droppings on canned goods, and decomposing rodents near frozen products. Over a dozen food items, including baby formula, snacks, and pantry staples, were contaminated and still shipped out. Worse yet, internal records revealed the company knew about the infestation as early as January and kept distributing products anyway. More than 250 stores were forced to temporarily close, and recalls hit everything from food to pet supplies. Still, many customers didn't learn the truth until after they fed their kids or pets the tainted goods. This wasn't a one-off. Family Dollar faced a nearly identical rodent crisis back in 2022. Only now, it's bigger, deadlier, and more widespread, with hospitalized kids and seniors paying the price. So what can you do? Try Aldi or Lidl if nearby. They offer better safety standards at similar prices. Or order shelf-stable goods online through discounted programs like Thrive Market. Local food banks and senior centers often distribute safe, donated groceries weekly, for free. And always inspect what you buy. Rodent damage can hide under price stickers. Peel them back, check the seals, and trust your instincts. Because no one, not in any zip code, should have to risk their health just to eat. Don't let silence poison your plate. Subscribe now, and join us in demanding the truth behind every bite we take.
Thanks so much for sticking with us to the very end. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our daily updates. And now feel free to check out some of our latest and most popular videos showing up on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.